about repairing these flexible hoses. This is an idea. The concept was phenomenal. The quality control is just complete crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say on this video. I've had 7 of these that had to be thrown away. I have 7 left. All of them have been repaired 2 to 3 times. I would not ever buy another one until they start making them in the US with some quality control. That's my soapbox, but we're going to move on to how to repair these. When you're working with this stuff, you have to clamp it or the surgical tubing will extract into the cover sheath and then you'll lose most of it. So I use this Workmate to clamp it. If you don't have a Workmate, use some vice grips and just clamp it on there like that. We're going to do 2 different repairs today. I have 4 hoses that have a hole somewhere within the foot of the end. So we're going to do an end repair, and then I have 2 more that are broken in the middle. So we're going to do a repair in the middle. If you unscrew the end and pull it back, you're going to see this crimp-on connector. I use a Dremel tool with a carbide blade and just cut a slot in that, and it'll pop loose. And then you can take a screwdriver and put in there and pry that apart, and it'll come right off. And once you've taken it loose, find the end of the tubing. I found that if there's a bad place in it, it's bad for a foot or 2, so I try to take off at least a foot. So I'm going to cut it back here pretty far. This one happened to be split directly under the clamp, if you can see that little slit in there. But I found that most of the time this tubing has what looks like measles or something on it, and you want to be sure you cut that entire section out because it'll just rupture again. So once you get this on here, slide the fabric back up over the hose. Be sure not to clamp directly on the hose because it'll just cut a hole in it and you'll have to start over. That bind up there. So when you're all finished, the hose clamps here. This won't go back up on there, of course. It's not very pretty, but at least it works. One thing you might want to do, the ends of these hose clamps are kind of sharp, and this is on the end with the nozzle. So what I like to do with these is just wrap a couple of rounds of duct tape around there. It just keeps you from cutting yourself. And again, not pretty, but in the greenhouse we don't really care. We're worried about functionality. It keeps you from kind of cutting your hand. The second repair we're going to do is in the middle of the hose. Most of mine blow apart completely, so I don't really have to find the hole, but this one has just a hole in it, so mark it with duct tape and then you can find it easily. Be sure that you clamp in 2 places so it doesn't retract when you cut it, and I like to cut a good chunk out of it because it's usually bad. These are 1/2-inch irrigation pipe couplings. You may want to go with 3/8 because these 1/2 inches are a nightmare to get on. The easiest way I found to do this is to cut your pipe at 2/45s, and I've taken a still shot of this to get you a little bit better view, but you cut it both ways at a 45 degree. Then I happen to have 2 pairs of vice grips with needle points. Grab one side, that, one on the other side, shoot a little WD-40 in there and on the coupling, and that lets you get a good grip on this thing and just pull it over. And that's not too bad if that one's going to go. Then you kind of have to work it. I'm sorry you can't see this really well, but you just have to kind of work it down. But at least you can get a hold of it that way. So this hose blew completely apart. So about all you can do is find the rubber part in there and cut it at that point. And it's kind of tough to cut even. And then go down till you find the other end, which is here. So I'm losing that much because it's a knot. You really can't fish it back through there. So this one blew apart. I lost 14 feet of hose. I don't see any defects in this, but there has to be one here somewhere. So at minimum I cut out at least 6 inches or so on each end. I just don't trust it. All right, then we have both sides put together. Be sure you get the fabric pushed up good, because if you get the clamp on the hose, it'll cut right through it. And since I've cut my hands many times on these, I always wrap this in duct tape when I'm finished.